Previously on Dirty Laundry. Let's start from the beginning. You moved to Japan and then needed to leave. What was that like?
I'd been there about 4 years by the time that I had been introduced to Tomoyoshi. And that's actually, turns out, fast forward, he's the birth father of my twin daughters. I was engaged to this man, but I didn't feel like I knew him. He was exhibiting very strange behavior. So there was reasons for me to really think about whether this was the best idea. He left once for like 3 days and never came back. I was couldn't get a hold of him.
Oh, wow.
No communication. People showing up to the door asking for him. Someone came to the door and said that we would need to make a choice between basically paying a debt or losing a body part. It took 8 months to get me out of the country.
Whoa. 8 months.
Yeah, 8 months of their investigation.
I'm Alex Howard. And I'm Amanda Silver. And this is Dirty Laundry.
As you both know, you cannot just take your children and take them to a foreign country.
Right.
Yeah. You cannot do that without, obviously the other legal parents' permission.
Right.
And even I knew that, but I didn't know how deep that went and how hard it would be to, in my mind, I'm like, well, they're my kids and I'm leaving. And then they're like, actually, they're not. They're your kids and they are his kids.
Right.
And so that's what started an investigation and what we did so that we could meet on a regular basis, because I'm telling you, I was being followed all the time. We set it up as that I was taking Japanese language classes because he always complained that my Japanese wasn't good enough and that I needed to learn to read and write. So she said, here's what we'll do, and we won't meet here.
So she came up with this story with you.
She was your teacher.
They did a preliminary investigation, got back to me, asked me to come back. And that was under the guise that like I needed to renew my passport. Right. This is what I was telling him. And then she met and she said, absolutely. We know exactly who he is. And we do see some cause for concern, but we're going to need time because we have to work with the Japanese government and we'll meet on a regular basis. And she said, because you feel that you're being followed, we'll meet outside of the embassy and we'll meet for language classes, which was perfect. And that's what we continued to do. And it took 8 months for them to come up with, they always said to me, be prepared. You're going to be able to pack 2 suitcases each. You're going to for each one of you, 2 each. Don't bring anything that, don't bring stupid stuff. Make sure that, and you'll have 24 hours notice to get out of the country. So I waited and I met regularly for my supposed language classes. Yeah. And while they gathered information, they communicated with the Canadian government. And then I got a phone call and they're like, you are booked on a flight. You need to come pick up the temporary passports for the girls. They had passports that expired within 48 hours. That's how long the passports were good for. They were, they weren't even Canadian citizens yet. Right. These were temporary passports.
And how old were they at the time?
2.5, 2 3/4. And they gave me 48 hours. They're like, pack your stuff and tell no one. And I had one friend and her husband was Japanese. She was Australian. And I had them, and they were the people that were set up to take me to the airport. And I hung around with them frequently, so it wasn't out of the norm to visit them. And I got the phone call. I got the passports. I packed, and I'm not kidding. He left for work. I left for the airport. I left for Toronto, and it wasn't that smooth either, because when I arrived at when I got to the airport in Osaka, we got through security, and then we were heading towards the gate to wait. And over the speaker, I can hear them calling my name. Monica Neish, come back to a section. And I was like, and I remember them saying to me, no matter what, keep going. Do not if you hear anything, if anyone stops you, if anyone says, this is all prearranged, we've got through security, everything was prearranged.
Don't trust anyone else.
Yes, but if you hear come to, I know, it was come Monica Neish, come to the desk to receive a phone call. And they're like, it will not be us. We won't be communicating that way. They're like, just keep going, keep going. And I was like, okay, get on the plane. They closed the door. We're pushed back. And I'm like, I wasn't breathing, like literally the
And
entire
had
time.
two babies with you who were like, it wasn't just you.
Now I'm gonna like, yeah.
It's so much.
Yeah. Well, we got on the plane and sorry. Well, we
take your time.
Oh my God.
I haven't told this story in a while.
It's a lot to relive, and especially in such detail.
Yeah,
it's
and
a
their
lot.
birthday's coming up, and I'm like, it was the flight to freedom.
It was the flight to freedom.
Yeah. So we got in the air, and I'm like, I can breathe. I'm like, we made it.
I'm not breathing. I have goosebumps.
I know.
I'm like, this is.
I kept thinking Tomio, she was like in business class and was going to pop out something.
God.
And he didn't. It was a long flight. We landed in Vancouver.
Yeah.
My sister lives in Vancouver, but we didn't have any plans to meet her. And we got stopped at immigration, and they pulled us aside. They pulled myself and the daughters, my girls aside, because they looked at these temporary passports. And they had never seen anything like this.
Slightly suspicious.
Very suspicious for them. They were expiring.
Right.
In another 12 hours, they were going to expire. And they said, what's this?
Yeah.
What's going on here? That's what he said. And I'll never forget it because he's like, what do we have here? And I'm tired.
They're such pricks.
Yeah.
Like maybe just take a pause and be like, this is new for me. I wonder what this could be.
Yeah.
Let me be
there's someone
curious.
in trouble who needs some help. Right.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
and I was like, okay, I was sort of prepared for this.
Yeah.
And they're like, you may be asked some questions.
Yeah.
And I said, I didn't really say much. I said, well, these are my daughters and the passports are temporary because they're not Canadian citizens yet, but everything's explained in a document they gave me in a letter. All right, then. So we got ushered into a room and they wanted to check it out. And I was prepared for that.
Yeah.
And
did you feel safe? At least you're on Canadian soil.
Right.
Like,
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Right.
And they did prepare me that it would look a little unusual and that they might have to. I did. I was
you
like,
weren't
I'm
going
in
to go
Canada.
right through like you're coming home from a trip.
Sure.
You knew you were going to be stopped and questioned, as you should be when something like that happens, right?
Yes.
So they were,
you
knew there's protocol.
Yeah, because what if this was in the reverse and I really was, I was taking the children, but what if I didn't have any permission to do so?
Right.
And I was prepared, but we did have a connector to get to Toronto. So it was a little concerned. We had given like 2 hours, but I was like, okay, so let's hope this goes smoothly. And they took the documents, they made their phone calls. We waited and waited. They tried to question my daughters, Erica and Serena, but they didn't speak English at the time. We only spoke in Japanese at home. And they kept asking the girls, is this your mommy? Is this your mommy?
Yeah.
Like, not if this is your mommy. And they were just looking at him, blinking like, who's the white man with the big eyes speaking in another language? Because they were like blinking their eyes and I'm translating.
Right.
And then he says to me, I don't think you're their mother at all. They don't seem to know you. And I'm like, they don't know you.
Yeah.
I said, they don't.
And they don't know
speak English.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, isn't that weird? Because you speak English. And I'm like, well, I've been living abroad and their biological father actually speaks Japanese. I speak Japanese. They haven't learned English yet. And he thought that was very strange. And I said, well, there's a lot of like bilingual and multilingual people in the world. And off he goes again. And they separated us briefly. And then I said,
separate you from your kids?
Very briefly. And then I said, that's illegal. That's illegal. I said, I need to be back in the room with my children. I don't know what you're doing with my children. And
not.
so they got the supervisor. And like I said, we missed our connector. They finally got in touch with my contact person, the embassy and the consulate in Japan. And then we had to just wait for a flight that was much longer.
Right.
So we were able to make it through. And then when I got on the flight to Toronto, that's when I knew I'm free. Like, I'm free. Yeah. And we landed. And oh my God, we're in Toronto.
Wow.
And it's freezing. It was March. It was the end of March. And
your first stop is what? Go to your parents?
no, my parents live in Nova Scotia, so we were still alone.
Okay.
I decided to.
So why Toronto?
why
then?
Toronto?
You're in Vancouver where you have family.
I had one friend. Yeah, I thought about it, but to be honest, I wanted to start in Toronto because it's a larger city.
Right.
I'm in the beauty business.
Right.
I thought
Fair.
it would give me a better chance
diversity.
career-wise.
Yeah.
My sister really she had her hands full in Vancouver.
Okay.
And to be honest, I needed a really fresh start.
Yeah.
And maybe I needed to prove to myself that I could just sort of do this on my own. And I had one friend in Toronto that I knew from Halifax, and he was in the beauty business. He was a makeup artist. We hadn't really stayed in touch, but I thought I'll probably track him down. And I guess I'm going big. I'm going to go to Toronto.
Love it.
I'm a brown girl from Halifax. I'm going to make it in the big city.
And make it you did.
Make it I
we're
did.
going to get there. But now you're in Toronto.
Yes.
You've just come off a very harrowing journey to get here. You've got twin 2.5-year-olds.
Yes.
Now what? You're
Now
a single
what?
mom on your own.
Yeah. Now what? I make a phone call to the makeup artist. And I think I literally was looking through the pages or calling directory assistants, good old fashioned.
Yellow pages.
Anyone who's a certain age won't even know what that is. And got his number, called him, left a voicemail. I'm like, hi, you remember me? It's Monica from Halifax. We used to work at Le Chateau together.
Oh,
yes, right?
Classic.
Classic.
So good.
And called me back very quickly. And I'm like, okay. We'll catch up later. But, I have 2 kids. I've fled a country. I have no money and I need a job. I have $2,000 in my pocket. And I had already arranged, just to go back, I had arranged an apartment because I actually had my first boyfriend from high school was living in, and he's here, and he's a criminal lawyer. And so he had put a deposit on a condo for me, just a little rental, and put just a few pieces of furniture, like mattresses, a sofa, a little TV. And he had done that for me because I had sort of headsed him up that I was going to be coming to Toronto. I didn't know, I'll go to a hotel. And he's like, you know what? I'll lease you a condo, an apartment. You'll pay me back. So that's kind of how I had somewhere to land. But that's sort of where his help ended. And then it was hit the ground. So then when I got here, I got a little burner phone. And that's when I called my friend from Halifax. And he got me a job. Immediately, I got hired at a hair salon, which was amazing. It was 2 men. A married couple that owned a salon. I'm still friends with them to this day. And they hired me on as their salon coordinator. And they were a huge support to me. It was in a better place to land with 2 amazing men in the beauty business who really helped me with the girls. I was very it's more than just luck though. It's you're being guided.
It was meant to be.
But also you did the work.
Yeah.
You phoned people. You put yourself out there and you asked for help. And
asked for help.
Yes.
God
Reached out to
aside, you did
Yes.
that. And that is amazing.
Well, I think also when you become a mother, there's some type of inner strength and grit that
without a doubt.
I don't know what I would have gone to these lengths if it was just me. To be honest with you. I was in survival mode for my daughters. None of this really had to do with me. I could have, ran away from them, did whatever. It was about the life that I was going to give my daughters. I knew and sensed they were in danger. And I knew, but honestly, kudos to the Canadian government for being that helpful. Who knew that you could I remember watching movies growing up, people in trouble, go to the consulate, go to your embassy. And that's really kudos to them. I could not have asked to be from a better country than Canada and our legal system and our support and how seriously they took this. And I think to myself, what if I was from, a lesser country that wouldn't give 2 shits?
You can definitely swear.
We share a lot. We share a lot.
No,
and swear.
Do you know what? And Amanda
are-
and I really shit on our system because we see so much of
sure
the
you
family
do.
courts, and it's just so ass backwards, and it's all the things.
When you need it in an emergency,
We are
if
very
you're
lucky to be
abroad,
here.
it is
especially
it's
as
probably no better
women.
place to be than from Canada.
We're very,
Yes.
very.
And if you
put
were
that
from
to-
a country, you may not be.
Well, I put
in
that.
that
I
situation.
put that. I tested that system.
Yeah.
I really had nowhere else to go, and they did take me seriously. I have to give it to them because I don't know that if I was the agent, I'd be like, what? Say what?
Who's this?
Right.
Who's this girl? Right?
Right.
I think she's so. but I was more than persistent. I was more than adamant. I had 2 children in my mind that I was going to save, and nothing was going to stop me. Nothing was going to stop me.
And so how does that work? You leave him. Where are his like parental rights and access? Is it done because of his criminal activity? You're able to?
Well, I had a lot of meetings before we left Japan with a lot of people in the legal system. And I mean, first and foremost, I was also told, don't come back.
Right.
They're like, and they'd seen this situation before. So when I first had gone to the consulate and the embassy, and then we started to get together and I was meeting with other people, the lawyers, other people in the legal system of how this was going to go down, it was like an reminder to me. They're like, this is no joke. And when we do this, you don't get to just slingshot back because he's called you and now, or it's hard. And
this is a one-way ticket.
Yeah, it was a one-way ticket. It is your freedom flight. And it was very serious. It wasn't lost on me that, what else happened? I got here and I needed to I didn't have very much money. And like I said, I brought some jewelry with me that he had given me. And I knew that I would probably pawn that. So I had a Rolex, I pawned it. I got a car, which is great. Who knew your Rolex could buy you a car? Not a fancy car.
The emergency Rolex.
A car. I had the engagement ring, things like that. But I immediately reached out to our social system because I got a job, but I needed daycare now.
I was going to ask you, where did the girls go? Yeah.
That was amazing because, and I, growing up in Halifax, I came from a middle-class family. I always had a part-time job. Then I went off to college and whatnot. I never thought about being in a situation where I had no money, no finances. That was new to me. And then 2 dependents. So reaching out to, any type of social assistance was very new. No one in my family had done it. So I couldn't ask my mom or my dad how to do it. None of my siblings. So I thought, you make that phone call. So you call and you go to an office and you ask for help with subsidized daycare. And they were amazing. And at that time, I got, maybe there was more spots available, but I told them what my salary would be at the salon. They geared my daycare to that, which was incredible. And I felt very lucky and very thankful. I also qualified for like a single working parent subsidy. All sorts of things that the government gave. You certainly do have to continue working, though.
Absolutely.
There's no way that you can live off that. And I'm very determined. I've always worked. I've always had a career. I've been in hair, modeling, flight attendant, you name it.
Forgot you were.
Yeah, I was a flight attendant for 2 years as well. Yeah. So reaching out to our social assistants was great.
Yeah.
And
that's available.
Yeah. And I utilized it in the proper way. When I became more successful, I gave that spot to someone else though. I didn't, and I didn't need the subsidy. Then I was like, because I knew I can remember going to that office and asking for that help. So, and I know that it's a short, like the list is not, it's not big, like how many places there are. So that was another thing that I was never so happy to be able to go back to that office and say, I don't need subsidy anymore.
Wow.
I'm making it. Like, that's true. That's very much a true story. So, as far as like the legalities with the girls, I was told that I could just live my life, don't go back. And I did have some communication with the girl's birth father. That's all I call him. Like, it's just the girl's birth father. Because I don't know, like, I think like any woman, you kind of always do sort of look back. And with my burner phone, I did call him. I didn't tell him where I was, but I did call him. So we did have a little bit of communication. And, he did the usual coaxing, where are you? Come back. I mean, months have passed. He's kind of like, where I'm obviously he suspected that I had gone to Canada.
Right.
Well, your family was all here and this is your home country. Makes sense, right?
I was very nervous that he might pop up, but I was pretty confident with his lack of English, that he wouldn't come. That was sort of one of his sort of weaknesses, is that he didn't speak English. And he had visited Canada with me once, and he had gone to Nova Scotia, And he was really kind of nervous whenever he was somewhere where he wasn't in control.
Yeah.
So I was pretty confident that
Like you weren't like looking over your shoulder, you know, every
I
time you
was
leave the
looking
house.
over my
like I would feel
shoulder.
like that might be something.
Oh,
that,
I was convinced that every Asian man that I saw was him outside of my balcony. I always thought I saw him. Like I was very paranoid.
Fear
But
takes over.
I mean, I
Time
can
goes
imagine the paranoia. Like when you live through that trauma of having to flee a country and then not knowing if you're going to get in and get there. And it's just that stress. I mean.
And then what are you telling the girls?
Well, so I met a man pretty quickly. And then I found out eventually that I wasn't legally actually married to the girl's father, which was good news through the court system because we had not really, because we were fighting with the first husband for it all worked
that would be the saving grace. That your first husband refused to sign the divorce papers was your get out of jail free card.
Yes.
Wild.
And the signing of because the girl's father had insisted that I sign some type of marital contract, but it was actually prior to me technically being divorced to the first husband.
So it was void.
It was void.
Oh, wow.
So I had found that out, which was really great. So I felt even more confident and comfortable being in Canada. Like, okay, we weren't married. I know these are your children, but I'm legally allowed to be here because my country has gotten me here.
Yeah.
Right.
And after that, I met a man very quickly, as one does at a hair salon, and we had a relationship. We had a long relationship. It's the gentleman I'm married to now. But we did face sort of a legal kind of hiccup together because after we got married, we dated off and on for about 5 years, and then I ended up getting married, legally married, nice small little ceremony. And then a couple of years into the marriage, my husband now was interested in adopting the girls. So it was sort of, it was nice that he wanted to do that. And we went to see an international adoption lawyer to see how that might play out, knowing that this was like probably not, and poking the bear.
Yeah. Right.
That's really what I was
there's going to be some
about.
contact on the other side, right?
But he was very adamant, my husband, because it was sort of like, you've gone through all this. I've married you. I want the girls to be my children, and I'll be damned if I allow him to sort of stop this. And I'm protecting you now was, I think, his thought process. Yeah. He's like, we don't have to worry about him. I've got you. And I thought, okay, yeah, let's go and see a lawyer and see, what might happen. And we went through the whole story, and she was sort of like, okay. She's like, that's not impossible. And Canada and Japan do not share any type of contract or treaty with child support and things like that. So we hadn't been in touch with him for years, and we didn't have any leverage, say, to contact him and say, well, if you don't, pay child support or something, you don't relinquish, the girls for adoption. She was trying to come up with angles of how we would approach this, but also kind of force the issue when we did make contact with him. Because my immediate thought about him was that he's not going to say yes.
Yeah. Why would he? What would be the incentive? You're trying to incentivize him to say yes because, like you said,
contacting a man of which I effectively stole his children.
Right. So there's a lot of anger and resentment, and it's like, and then you're asking him for a favor.
Yes.
And why would he?
Why would he?
Why would he?
And she laid it out for us, and we had a 2 or 3 hour meeting with her. And she gave us all the possible scenarios. And then she said, think about it. It was going to be very expensive. It was going to take because she's like, this is sort of an open-ended thing. Right. It could be as simple as him saying, sure. Like, we have to track him down. We have to approach him. We have to serve him. We have to think about it. Or it could go on forever.
Right. He needs to sign away his parental rights first.
Yes.
Yeah.
How old were the girls then?
The girls were, I'm going to say they were 9, and 8, 9, 10. I think they were 10. They were 10 years old.
Right.
Yes, because we had been married for a year and a half or so. Yeah. And now they're 10. And we just thought, okay, maybe, we don't want them to be 18 by the time, he really was feeling.
That was sort of, I guess, your worst case scenario was that you'd have to wait until they're adults.
Until they're adults.
Then you could do that.
And, I understand that his desire to make this official, and we thought about it, and we had not had any contact with him for years. And my parents actually were in town when we were visiting this lawyer. The girls had spent the day with them. They were at my house. We got back from the visit with the lawyer, and we got home, and one of the girls came running down the stairs, and she said, maybe they were a little older. Maybe they were 11 or 12 because they had a Facebook account, and Facebook was new. And I wasn't really on Facebook, and ran down the stairs and said, look, is this my biological father? I think he sent me a message. It's a man from Japan. Right. I couldn't believe it. I was like, are you kidding me?
Oh my
The
goodness.
day that we go to visit someone,
He didn't know.
No.
This was just by chance?
Yes.
He didn't know. Oh, sorry. There was no contact from your lawyer to him.
No,
Just by
nothing. We hadn't
chance,
even started it yet.
You just
We
met
had
with a
the
lawyer privately.
consultation, and she told us to go home and think about it. It was a lot to take in because of the legalities of what had ensued, of how I had gotten the kids out of the country. She said it was going to, she's like,
She had
this
to
will
look
be a
into
lot.
it. Is there precedent? All the laws, all the things that lawyers do.
And does that put me in any danger?
Sure.
What would happen? Would I have to go back to Japan then
Could you
to
face
talk
some-
about, the rights? Would I have to face Tomoyoshi then? Like, she was going through all the scenarios of, because you're going to officially, ask him to sign off on the kids. She's like, she's like, go home and think about it.
Right.
And then we'll reconvene in what direction. And then I get home, and I couldn't even believe it. I was like,
that's
you
unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it was him that messaged.
It was him. He had sent a message and said, hi, I'm and he had done it through Translate. So it kind of sounded a little weird in English. And the girls are like, is this our biological father from Japan? And I'm like, yes. I said, I'll be right back. And I went upstairs to our private computer, logged on, sent him a message. I said, okay, I understand that you've contacted the girls. I'd like, before you have any more dialogue with them, I'd like for you and I to talk. And he blocked me immediately. And then I had to grapple with the girls wanting to have communication, which they did. They sent him back a message. And then he sent a message, and then they could see his profile and his friends.
They're probably curious. And
Very.
I mean,
after all those years, we're talking like a decade later.
And how much of the story did they know?
Not much.
Yeah,
Not
I
much,
would imagine you don't
they
want
were young, and they knew that we had left. We weren't in contact with him anymore. We were living our life, and he was living his.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was it.
That was it.
That was it. There wasn't, there
was no
wasn't
drama. There was no
He wasn't part of our
disparaging.
world.
Yeah.
He was not,
They
they didn't even
and they probably didn't remember because they
him
were
from
so young.
photos. And,
Right.
he was part of the dialogue in the sense that you were born in Japan, you're half Japanese.
Right.
Funny stories about, your grandmother and your grandparents used to take you to see the deer. Like, things like that. Just there had to be stories. There had to be childhood stories you can't grow up without. It's not like, we can never speak about him.
That causes way more long-term harm,
right?
Denying or lying or any of that. Now, what about his family, like extended family, parents you mentioned?
Yes, they never reached out.
Never.
They and they really were very simple people. They're not going to get on the phone and call me. They wouldn't even have had my cell number. I no longer had the girl's father's cell number. He changed it. Back when I was still staying in touch and trying to ask him for money.
Yeah.
I would call him and ask for money. I'm like, can you please help me? Like, we have no money. We had no money. And I'm like, please, anything. And he was like, well, if you bring the girls back. So, that was very short lived, but I had no contact with anyone else. And so my husband and I decided pretty quickly that might have been a sign. And we decided not to go forward with the adoption, because just that in itself, without even contacting him, the lawyer, he all of a sudden had appeared and was making his own pitch, I guess, to the girls by messaging them on Facebook and telling them they didn't know the full story. He always wanted to be a part of their life. I took them away. So they started to learn a little bit of the story through him. There wasn't a whole lot I could do about that. I was there to explain it, but they had every right to have some communication.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like 12 years old at this point. And what am I going to say? Don't talk to him?
Right.
I needed to let them listen to this, look at this. I mean, it was hard because he was spinning a different story, and it was very confusing for them. And then, I think we made the right decision because I thought, oh boy, if we hired this lawyer now,
it would have been a war.
And then what? I mean, he's going to come after the fact that I got out of the country without his permission. And I just thought this will be a battle because this will become ego.
Yes.
And it'll be probably two egos.
Just like the courtroom in Japan with the first
100%.
husband and the second. Look how that turned out.
Right.
And that was, and there were no children involved.
That's right.
His children, there were no children involved at that time.
It would have been ego. Yeah. And I just thought the timing was, sometimes we just get these messages sent to us, and it's like I don't know, girl, you probably shouldn't be doing that.
Like a warning light. That's
definitely a warning.
And so did they continue having, communication?
It was short-lived. He disappeared. And I felt so bad for them because they were having a little bit of communication. It was really short. It was probably a couple of months, to be honest with you. And then they came to me and they said, he's not answering messages. Hasn't responded. And I said, I'm sorry. Maybe it's now time to sit down and talk about some of the things that actually happened and why we left. Yeah. And that he perhaps isn't really the man that he's portraying himself to be, unfortunately. And I got you got his great DNA, and we're good with that. And then I sort of slowly tried to share the story without without scaring them and without making them feel like they were the reason I had to flee the country, sort of thing. So and it was a journey in that, unfortunately, he may not appear again, and maybe not to be counted on. And now you have a new father, and he'll always be, this one will always be part of your biological history. But maybe when you get older, that would be something that you guys could maybe look into.
Yeah. So your story has a beautiful, happy love ending.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
But it has an even more impressive business ending. Yes. And this is what I get real excited. Yeah. I mean, love is love, and it's beautiful, and I'm so happy that, after all of this roller coaster of relationship, you ended up with somebody who seems loving and caring for you and the girls, and that's so beautiful. But you're a boss.
She is a freaking boss. Like queen of hair.
Yeah.
She's the queen.
I mean, Amanda just talks about you ad nauseum. Which is
the queen
so
is
special.
Coming. The queen is coming. Honestly.
And there's so much happening. So you have your own place now.
Yes.
You left the husbands.
Yes.
Your husbands and
she
the
husband.
The salon husbands.
Yes.
You left them.
I left them. You're good.
Yes.
I left the salon husband.
She left the salon husbands.
Not that good that it didn't come out. Neither of you got it, but you left the love husbands and you left the business husbands, and you went out on your own.
That's right.
Wow. Yes. And how old were the girls at the time?
How old were the girls at the time?
Only because I think
I need a drink now. No,
people are often like, a single mom. How do you do this with small children? So I like to always give a bit of context.
Like nothing,
yeah,
and then
they're building in school now,
an
presumably.
Empire. Like she has a hair empire. Okay, you really do, and a reputation that really just. Like you can't even compete with. Like it's really incredible. And so you've built this. I mean, when I started coming to your salon, you were in the basement of the salon.
Yes.
In Yorkville, and now you have this magnificent facility in beautiful salon in Yorkville, and you run, this big business, and now you're expanding south of the border. So I want to hear all about it. I want to hear how it started and how you got to where you are.
Actually, the salon that I was working at with the two amazing men didn't really need me anymore. They didn't need a salon coordinator. So they sort of released me, and I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And as I do, I'm like, I know I'm going to start my own business. After I married Kip, I put my husband, I put a little small, we had a finished basement, and I was already teaching at that time. I was teaching extensions. I was educating for Balmain extensions. I then went on to educate nationally for another company here in Toronto for hair extensions. And so it was very much, I was building a clientele, but really it was mainly education. I was doing trade shows. I was a platform artist. I was certifying people. So I was doing a lot of that. And then I thought, you know what? I want to get back to actually doing hair. So my husband and I decided, because I was doing quite a bit of traveling with education, why don't I put a chair in the finished basement in the man cave of his. So it started like that.
Yeah.
And I was also working on a lot of television shows. So I was doing hair and extensions I did Canadian Idol, So You Think You Can Dance.
Oh,
I was doing a lot of, and I was doing not the contestants, but I was doing all the celebrity judges. So then that really guided and helped.
I'm sure.
For me to build a really great clientele. So we put a chair downstairs for a little while, and I was seeing a few people. Then I thought, you know what? I don't want to have so many people in my house. So I leased a little space on the Danforth, because we live on the Danforth, just kind of a divey little place that my husband came and painted and whatnot.
Aww.
And then I had even more clients, like, enter Jess M and all kinds of people, making them trek all the way over to the Danforth.
Listen, we will travel for you.
And I'm just going to say, shout out Jess M. She was the one that said, I'm not coming over all this way. She's like, you need to be in Yorkville, honey. She's like, you're meant for Yorkville.
Yeah.
So I had that small studio for about 8-9 months. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go into Yorkville, get a small space, and lease that. And at that time, they needed my husband's signature as well. So he signed. We did a 2-year lease on Davenport. And so I had an even bigger studio, started to garnish more clients long before social media. So that word of mouth, still working on set. I was still doing a couple of the shows. And then I moved right into Yorkville, and that's where we met. And I was at 97 Scholars. And it was a walk down. And again, had it all renovated. And I just remember thinking, God, the rent's $5,000. Who do I think I am? And I'm on my own. I'm like, now
That's
what?
a big undertaking.
I was sick to my stomach. I thought, what did I do? Maybe I could take like a tenant. Maybe I could put a bed in one of the rooms. I could be a condo. I didn't know what to do. And my husband kept saying, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. And I'm like, it's $5,000 plus.
Right.
I wish I was paying $5,000 in rent now. I love that. Love that. So, and then I don't even know. I think it was your sister who initially introduced us.
Ashley is like the beauty advisor of the family.
She hunted me. She tracked me down.
You. She did, and
it
then
changed
of course I
my world. Having clients like you guys changed my world. These are the women that rallied around me, and I think that I have a very strong passion with hair extension. I've been doing it all over the world. I've done it in Japan. I've done it everywhere. And I was so lucky that you believed me when I was like, this is the best method, the best hair.
Yeah.
I've traveled the entire world to manufacture my own hairline. I've dragged my husband to Amsterdam and other cities to meet with hair brokers. I spent the last 2 decades traveling to meet with factories and hair brokers to find the best hair on the planet.
It's an incredible industry.
I'm unstoppable. The hair industry is something.
It's huge, but also the quality. I mean, like when anytime I've ever gone anywhere and had my hair blown by like a stylist somewhere, like, wow, this is the quality.
Best hair.
It's always wow.
The buying of the hair. The hair trade is a lot like the drug trade. I liken it to that because it's sold by the kilo. There are lots of illegal people involved in it, and you're looking for purity. And at each stop that hair makes, somebody takes a cut. So they try to shuffle out some of the human hair and shuffle in animal hair, synthetic hair, to dilute it because we're selling it by weight. Goes by the kilo. So I'm like, it's just like the drug trade.
Yeah.
And everyone takes their cut. I've never sold drugs, so please.
From the movies.
From the movies. So that was something that, to get around that, to find the source and get the hair before it had been stomped on. Before somebody took, out. And, even in my factory that I manufacture, and that I've been with a woman now for, effectively 17 years. We've been manufacturing together. And we have infrared machines that pick up, every time a kilo comes in and to see if there's anything else mixed in. And this is a woman in Asia with her own factory. Shout out to Doris, because
we love
for her to be doing what she's doing, and living in Asia, being a woman who owns a factory and being in this industry is also a rarity. So we've kind of grown up together. And this is my sister in the hair trade because, you know, sources the kilos, sorts the hair, then it goes to stitching and dyeing. It's a whole big thing. And I've been doing this for quite some time, and it is not easy to get the best hair and continue to sustain like that quality.
Yeah.
But again, I'm pretty tenacious, and I'm not going to stop.
No, it's like a master
It's
class.
a whole other world.
It's a completely. I have no
hair trade. Yeah,
I have no
trade.
fingers on this world.
Yeah.
And it's so
Not yet.
interesting. Yeah, there's still time,
around me
Monica.
long enough.
Look at your hair. Yeah, you sure you don't want some inches, some kilos?
Kilos,
Some
yeah.
kilos.
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 Yeah, babe, I'm just
Give
buying
me
some
a few
kilos.
How many bundles? We speak in bundles. That's our
But it's
language.
the bundles. I know it's the bundles.
It's the bundles.
Give me it. Give me the good stuff.
Yeah,
give me
I need
a bundle.
Like
Give me a
today, I'm
bundle.
going to get a bundle
Oh.
or 2 bundles. That's
Oh,
literally our
it's
language.
literally, yeah.
You hit the door, the client will say, I think I'm going to need a new bundle.
I need a bundle.
And then I open up the big 8-foot hair closets.
The halos and the wings and the harps come out.
They come out. Here comes the bundles.
organs.
There's the hair. All the many possibilities.
It's pretty incredible.
Look at what you have done.
Thank you.
Look how far you've come.
Look what a woman
Look at-
can do.
Right?
What a woman
Right?
can do
Yeah.
Look what a woman can do.
with determination.
It wasn't, I didn't do it on my own. And all of these steps that led me, like I've had support along the way, but
And we
yeah,
always
work your
say
butt off.
that, you've
There's
got to get
support.
support. You've got to get people around you, even if
Don't
it's
be
one
afraid to ask for
person
help.
to help you, that one person that you had in Japan, that one friend who her and her husband helped you, like that.
Yes.
It's just about finding your people who can
Mhm.
help you through this time, and your people you have found.
My people I
The
have
people you have
found.
found,
I've been
yeah.
surrounded in it. And I'm really looking forward to the next chapter. I'm still
Same.
like slightly terrified, but
I can't
I
wait
think
to
that's
watch.
good. It's good
Yes.
because I needed another
Yeah.
challenge. So I think this, and being able to, stand there and work with, my daughters and let them see them achieve some of their
Mhm.
dreams and watch them. I signed a 10-year lease. So I'm like, I tell everybody I'm out in 2 though. I'm out in
The
2.
rest
They're
of
like,
the
no, you're
girls,
not.
it's the
I'm like 10. I'm like, I go, 10 is it. I give you 10. And then I'm seriously out then. Yeah. I'm like, I'm leaving both businesses then. They're like, no
you're
way.
not.
No, I won't.
No, you're not. No,
No,
you're
I
not.
won't.
No
No.
way.
But you
No
have
way.
done an incredible job role
Yeah.
modeling for them. And
You really
they
have.
are the fruits of your labor and of your strength and of your courage. And wow.
And-
I don't know any of this story. This
I know.
has been-
I didn't tell you. I told you little bits,
very
but like I
tiny
was
bit.
just like, just you wait, because
Yeah.
like it's incredible. It's impressive. It's inspiring. It's really amazing.
And for those of
so-
us listening, I mean, it is a story, but this is your life.
Yes.
And sometimes we forget that.
it's fiction, and
Yeah.
we watch it on the
Yes.
TV. I watch some of those movies, and these things.
Yes.
It's fiction, and you walk
Yeah.
away, and you're like, but this is the real deal.
You're
the real deal, and it's like
inspirational.
really,
It's
yeah.
amazing.
And thank you so much for coming and
Thank you for
sharing your
having
beautiful
me.
story,
Thank
and because we
you.
have so many
It was an
people
honor.
who want to
Yes.
hear and who are going
And
through
me
different
too, yeah.
hard times, in different ways, and who can relate to, I'm sure, so many aspects of
Yeah.
your story. So
Yeah.
thank you.
And you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it with nothing. You can do it. You really can.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank
This
you.
was a real
Dawn.
pleasure.
Thank you, ladies. It was a
Wow.
pleasure.
This episode was written and created by Alex Howard and Amanda Silver, produced, edited, and engineered by RTF Productions. Make sure to rate and review our show if you loved it, and give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast to stay up to date on all upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening, and go easy on us. We're not your ex.